Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Sometimes the best way to find a living is to stay right where you are and study with UAS online. Career-specific distance programs from the University of Alaska Southeast are the fastest way to increase your earning power.
We connect all over the world.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting this evening's show. There's a wind advisory out here for the northern Kuskokwim Valley, areas near the Alaska Range for gusts of wind south to southeast up to 50 miles per hour, and that's out for tonight. And the small stream flood advisory continues for the Anchor River and Anchor Point. That's out through tomorrow morning for continued localized flooding there, again in the Anchor Point area around campgrounds and along some roadways. Otherwise, a dense fog advisory this evening or until midnight, which would be this evening, for the Valdez area. Dense fog reducing visibilities to a quarter mile this afternoon, expected to continue again until midnight, at which time you may start to pick up enough north and northeast wind flow to improve conditions a little bit. And off to the east here is also a dense fog advisory for the Juneau Borough and Admiralty Island for the same conditions. Visibility is down to a quarter mile. And this advisory is out through tomorrow morning, through Monday morning there for those areas. Moving on to satellite imagery, dissipating front here, that old frontal boundary right through here, weakening. Still a few showers there along the southwest coast, Port Alexander to about Sitka earlier today, but those ended. Just some clouds this afternoon. Pretty nice up over the northern areas, except for the fog that developed, and then really nice on down to the south. Otherwise, a lot of moisture coming northward here, southeast wind flow pulling a couple of bands, one batch right in through here. That's going to be sliding up to the Kenai Peninsula tonight, and then the other batch with the main front there coming into Kodiak Island, and then kind of a trough or warm front through this area bringing precipitation from Bristol Bay right up to the north, and another batch of snow up in this area covering the mostly the central Arctic coast, back across the western North Slope areas down into Kotzebue Sound, portions of the Seward Peninsula with still some snow going on over St. Lawrence Island. Otherwise, back out to the west, not a whole lot going on. Pretty nice day here over the Aleutians from Unalaska. Adak had some snow showers and also a little bit of snow shower conditions out toward Chimia, but wind's pretty light all through that area, including the Pribilof Islands today, with most of the snow shower activity back to the west of them. On the chart, weak 986 millibar low here, just south of Nunivak Island. Mostly to the north in conjunction with this low up over the Chukchi Sea, bringing areas of snow again from St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait and eastward there across the Kobuk Valley, southern slopes of the Brooks Range, and also the western Arctic coast. Just a few flurries over toward Barrow. Pretty dry day there on the eastern Arctic coast, as well as much of the interior here. The eastern interior, pretty nice in the Tanana Valley. A little bit of light snow here along the Alaska Range, and then get into the rain down across Kamishak Bay, Kodiak Island. False Pass picked up about 1/3 of an inch of rain with this front here along the peninsula today. Otherwise, Kodiak about 1/4 of an inch. Same thing at Seldovia, 1/4 of an inch of rain. And then over the southeast coast here, much drier, just some lingering showers earlier today, but clearing out. That leftover higher clouds there across the Panhandle. Dense fog there in the Valdez area, and then a break out here to the west again over the Aleutians. Pretty good conditions. The scattered snow showers, mostly activity though up to the north and back to the northwest there, or more cloudiness. And for tonight, that frontal boundary moves to right about a position something like that. So we've got gale force winds, storm force winds, Kamishak Bay, Barren Islands, gales here for the North Gulf Coast. So pretty windy conditions through the channeled areas there across Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula. Wind should let up a little bit behind that front there for Kodiak. We're staying in that east to southeast wind direction. Mixture of rain or snow here, Bristol Bay up across the Kuskokwim Delta. Snow from the Yukon Delta, St. Lawrence Island. And again, that area across the Seward Peninsula, right in across Kotzebue Sound, so Kivalina on over to Red Dog and up over the northwest. Areas of light snow tonight, nothing more than a couple inches at most. Most areas will have less than that. Dry over the eastern and central Arctic coast, and fair conditions with some clearing here from the eastern North Slope all the way down into the Alaska Range area. And just some variable clouds left over for the Panhandle, with the rain edging its way northward again to the North Gulf Coast areas. Heaviest amounts will be over western Prince William Sound and down the south coast of the Kenai Peninsula. And for tomorrow's forecast, front doesn't really move a whole lot there, kind of lying parallel to the southeasterly winds at the surface and aloft. So rain, possibly heavy at times, continues mostly from western Prince William Sound all the way down to Seldovia. Another wet day for Kodiak Island, but behind the front, this more showery conditions there along the Alaska Peninsula, mostly in the form of rain. Rain over the Kuskokwim Delta, mixture of rain or snow over the Yukon, and snow back towards St. Lawrence Island. Winds on the increase there over the northwest interior areas, but pretty light here over the southeast coast. Some channeled areas getting a little gusty and brisk there over the inside waters, but it should be a mostly sunny day there from Dixon Entrance right up into the Copper River Basin. Just a band of clouds there over the eastern Tanana Valley, but mostly clear to the north. And again, snow showers and colder temperatures kind of rotating in around on the west-northwest winds. So snow showers for the Pribilof Islands, mixture of scattered rain and snow showers there for the eastern Aleutians, and maybe a few more snow showers over the central and western Aleutians, what you saw today as this trough slides to the south. And then for Tuesday, that one low center moves northwestward and weakens into a trough to a position something like this. Tuesday afternoon, again, scattered rain and snow showers, Bristol Bay, and not too bad here over the eastern interior, just some areas of moisture, mostly western Cook Inlet, up western Susitna Valley areas, and back to the west, maybe a few flurries here with mostly cloudy skies over the western interior. Pretty nice conditions, mostly clear, even the eastern Arctic coast. Down into the upper Yukon Valley, another fair day, variable clouds for the Tanana Valley, Copper River Basin looking pretty good. Sunny skies with, again, generally light winds, but again, channeled areas could see gusts up to 40 miles an hour there across the southeast coast, with, again, dry and mostly sunny conditions there. That old frontal boundary right in this position, holding, just weakening into a trough. Still some moisture, bringing some rain and snow showers to the North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, but nothing too terribly heavy. Still looks a little showery there for Kodiak Island. And then for temperatures this afternoon across the southeast coast, 30s to lower 40s, 42 at Sitka, 41 down at Klawock. Otherwise, Juneau right at the freeze mark, and 33 at Yakutat. Valdez, 30 degrees, dense fog there, 34 in Kenai, but up to 42 both at AKwx and Kodiak this afternoon, 32 in Palmer, same thing in Talkeetna, 26 at Gulkana, 4 above at Northway, Delta with diminishing winds, but enough wind to keep above freezing this afternoon. 8 degrees at Fairbanks, 33 in Healy, and then up to the north, 9 degrees at Fort Yukon, 5 at Arctic Village, 30 degrees at Anaktuvik, and kind of lower 30s there, that 32 at Selawik, 27 at Kivalina, just 16 at Shishmaref. 30 degrees at Nome this afternoon. Up along the Arctic coast, temperatures range from 0 at Kaktovik to 10 above, both at Wainwright and Point Lay. Cape Lisburne up to 13, and then upper 20s here along the northwest coast. For St. Lawrence Island, Savunga had 18 degrees. Back over the interior here, McGrath was at 26, Bethel at 33, St. Michael 28 degrees, Unalakleet at 30, and Macoriac 25, Kipnuk 32. Mid-30s for the Pribilofs, upper 20s out over the western Aleutians, and conditions warm to the mid to upper 30s over the eastern areas, 30s, lower 40s there for the Bristol Bay and Alaska Peninsula. For the lows tonight, 20s for the most part here, maybe some lower 30s across the southeast coast, near or a little below 0 over the eastern interior, above 0 for the Arctic coast, and then 20s for the lows here over the northwest interior Seward Peninsula, mid to upper 30s for Bristol Bay and Kodiak Island, 20s out over the Aleutians. Highs, lower 30s tomorrow for the Aleutian areas, and then 30s, lower 40s here for Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula. Mostly in the mid 30s for south central Alaska, lower 20s Copper River Basin, 30s to near 40 for the southeast coast, and coolest here over the eastern interior, north slope and the Arctic coast. Flying weather for tomorrow, good VFR here across much of the panhandle, except those areas of fog in the morning there. Of course, that'd be IFR in those areas, but generally looking at VFR over much of interior Alaska all the way up to the Arctic coast. And then some marginal VFR with areas of IFR here over the Kilbrook Mountains. The eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, you'll see lower conditions there. Western Prince William Sound, southern Kenai Peninsula, also lower conditions. Not too bad for the eastern Aleutians on over to Kodiak Island. Passes Anaktuvik and Adigan, both VFR tomorrow, both approaches open. Lake Clark and Merrow, marginal VFR, IFR in the eastern entrance of both passes. Same forecast for rainy, same weather pattern going on there. Windy VFR, Isabel VFR and Mintasta open with VFR. Tanita also pretty good. Portage, marginal VFR becoming IFR probably late in the morning to early afternoon. Chilkoot and White VFR. For the freezing levels, one push of warm air coming northward for late tonight into early tomorrow morning, 4,000 feet there. Cooler to the east and then warming back up there along the southeast coast, 2 to 6,000 feet. Icing tomorrow, again, southeast flow bringing batch into the North Gulf Coast, or actually the western Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula area, 4 to about 20,000 feet. And then another big area out here to the west, 3 to 15,000 feet across the Alaska Peninsula, mostly light to isolated moderate rime, maybe mixed icing all the way up toward the Bering Strait. Winds aloft here showing a good strong westerly jet from Japan right across the Pacific. Takes a turn to the northwest here right around 150 west, 70 to 90 knots up and over the top of this huge area high pressure upper center right over the southeast coast tomorrow. 9,000 foot winds, pretty strong again, 50 to 60 knots southeasterlies from the Gulf of Alaska and across the southwest interior, and even over the north central interior, 30 to 45 knots, but dropping off markedly toward the Brooks Range onto the Arctic coast. Northwesterlies, 30 to 35 knots back to the west. That same pattern at 3,000 feet here on both sides of that trough. Southeasterlies, 40 to 55 knots across the Gulf of Alaska and southwest interior, lighter toward the panhandle. Turbulence-wise, maybe severe here for Kamishak Bay, southern Cook Inlet across the southwest interior with moderate chop all the way up across the Seward Peninsula to St. Lawrence Island, and then lightening up here as you head to the west. No turbulence at all for the southeast coast, Copper River Basin, or up to the north. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Like most people, Dennis Beam and his daughter Kelly weren't worried about the cold the night their car slid into a ditch in the middle of a blizzard.
I wasn't really too concerned. I'd been stuck before and it wasn't all that deep. But the wind kept picking up and the storm just didn't let up. I was getting wet trying to get the car out, but it was no good, so I decided to wait. About 9 that morning, we'd been stuck about 4 hours. Storm wasn't stopping at all, and we were really getting cold. I figured nothing was going to happen up there on a country road. No help, period. So I decided to go for help. You stay warm and you stay in the car no matter what, okay?
Okay.
Everything's going to be okay. I love you.
Love you too.
Okay, now you be good. Right there. Right there, okay?
I didn't want to be left alone, but Dad said he'd be back for me. He promised.
Leaving Kelly was like leaving my heart behind, and I didn't know when I'd get it back. I couldn't see a thing. It was freezing. My eyes were frozen shut. I had ice all over my feet, but I had to keep going. There was nothing else to do.
Help! Please, this is Kelly Dean. We had a CB waiting in the car, so I tried to call for help. Help! But no one answered. I kept wondering where Daddy was. Can you hear me?
It took me 3 hours to get to a house, and it was literally my last ounce of energy. My feet were black, parts of my face were frozen, but that wasn't my main concern. Kelly was still in that car, and the police said they couldn't get to her until the storm stopped, and there was nothing I could do.
After it got dark, I didn't know what had happened. I couldn't stop thinking about Dad. I had 3 pieces of candy, but I wanted to save them for Dad because I thought he'd be hungry when he came back.
After 10 hours, I didn't know what to think. She'd been alone so long. There was a lot of worry time then. Yeah, a lot of thinking time. Kelly's okay, I think. I had to leave her in the car.
Sometimes in the car, I dream that Daddy might not come back.
About 1 the next morning, the storm broke, and the police headed off to get Kelly.
Have you heard anything?
Nothing yet. All I could think was that after 19 hours, who knows, she'd been there so long with no heat. I kept hoping I'd put enough emphasis on staying in that car until I got back.
When the rescuers came, I asked if Dad was okay. He said yeah. I was glad, because it was all over and Dad was okay.
It's for you?
Yes. Thank God. And then the call came. She was okay. My whole world lit up then. Oh, thank God. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay. She's okay.
Kelly suffered only mild symptoms of hypothermia. As the snow buried the car, it insulated and protected her from the severe cold and high wind. Dennis was badly frostbitten because of his walk through the snow. Which of the two had been in the most danger? Without a doubt, Dennis. As soon as he left the car, he put himself in tremendous jeopardy. Neither father or daughter were well prepared for the extreme weather conditions they encountered. A few carefully chosen items would have given them the extra margin of safety they needed. One blanket wasn't enough. Sleeping bags would have been better. Extra clothing would have been extremely welcome after Dennis got wet. Matches and candles, a flashlight with extra batteries, signal flares, high-calorie, non-perishable food, a shovel and a sack of sand, ashes, or even kitty litter, and a first aid kit. These are examples of items you need. Winter travel is serious business, and you must be prepared for it. Your car should be in good working order. Know the route you plan to take, and tell somebody else where you're going and when you plan to arrive. Check the latest weather information before you leave. The National Weather Service provides up-to-the-minute weather forecasts and can predict most severe storms. If the people in our next story had listened to the weather forecast, they would be alive today. Traveling back to school, 2 students drove directly into a severe winter storm. They had a 4-wheel drive vehicle and were sure they could get through. First, they came upon a roadblock warning travelers to pull off the highway. They went around it. Several miles further, they got stuck in a large snowdrift directly under a bridge. They tried to dig out, but it was hopeless. Soaking wet, they changed clothes. Stuck in the snowdrift, isolated from help, they decided to sit it out. Wait until someone came along and found them. The next morning, someone did. They were dead. They had made two fatal mistakes. One, traveling in the face of deteriorating weather conditions. And two, ignoring a police roadblock. Ironically, it appeared that after they got stuck, they did everything right. They started the car every so often to keep warm. They changed into dry clothing after getting wet trying to dig out. And they didn't abandon their car. However, stuck under the bridge, the wind trapped fatal carbon monoxide fumes around and inside the car. A freak accident? Maybe. But they really died because they didn't use common sense. After those first two mistakes, every other decision only compounded their danger. Ed and Paul Miluski. Dennis and Kelly Beam could have been winter storm fatalities. The two students were. Being prepared for winter emergencies will always better your odds in a snowstorm. So will using good judgment and common sense. These guidelines, if you get caught in a severe snowstorm, will help you survive the cold.
Welcome back. Well, southeast winds along the coast tomorrow, 20 to maybe as high as 25 knots on the north coast. Lynn Canal, small craft advisories, northerly winds up to 25 knots, and that goes on down into Stevens Passage, then becomes lighter for Clarence Strait. And then for Tuesday, Clarence Strait, northwest 15, pretty slight seas, light winds here along the south coast, out of the east at 10 knots, but still small craft advisories due to these 15-foot seas. In fact, we've got small craft advisories all the way up the north coast as well due to seas up to 14 feet. Northern Lynn Canal, north winds 30 knots and could see gusts as high as 40 knots there in those channeled areas over the northern and central inside waters. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow, small craft advisories for those east winds. We've got easterly gales here along the North Gulf Coast, the Barren Islands, right into Kamishak Bay. East to southeast at 30 for Kodiak Island, and Cook Inlet, small craft advisories for northeast at 25 to 30 knots. Then for Tuesday, south to southeast here for Kodiak Island, 25 to 30 knots. Small craft advisories from the southeast for the North Gulf Coast, Barren Islands, right up into Kamishak Bay. And for southern Cook Inlet, east 25, northern Cook Inlet, northeast at 15. Small craft advisories there for Prince William Sound. For the Bristol Bay zone, east at 30 knots tomorrow, northeasterlies 25 knots here for the peninsula, and southeast from Sitkinak to Castle Cape at about 30 knots with 17-foot seas. For the Tuesday outlook, we've got south of the peninsula, southwesterly gales, and then southwest becoming south at 30 knots there on into Bristol Bay with 10 to 12-foot seas. For the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, small craft advisory, westerly winds 25 to 30 knots, much lighter winds and conditions back out to the west. Then for Tuesday, south 20 and southeast for the central Aleutians at about 20 knots, and for the Fox Islands, southwesterlies at 25 knots. For the southwest coast, small craft advisories south of Nunivak Island and brisk wind advisories for St. Lawrence Island and northwesterlies at 25 for the Pribilofs with seas at about 10 feet. And for St. Lawrence Island, the next day still have brisk wind advisories, but from a southeasterly direction, and westerlies at 25 knots for the northern Bering Sea, southwest at 20 for the Pribilofs, turn southerly 20 to 25 knots along the southwest coast. Up along the Arctic coast, easterly winds 10 to 15 knots there along the entire stretch of the coastline. Wales to Cape Thompson, east at 20. And then we've got brisk wind advisories here from Wales all the way up, or actually to the central and eastern Arctic coast, and then on over toward Kaktovik demarcation point on the east side there, gale force easterlies in the forecast. For tonight, again, this front edging a little to the north, more rain and moisture will be sliding northwestward right into south central Alaska, and then fair conditions over the eastern interior and just some variable clouds for the panhandle. Chance of snow, the Yukon Delta up through here into the northwest interior. And then for tomorrow, that front really not moving a whole lot, roughly in about this position. And we've got precipitation from northern Bristol Bay right up across the Yukon and Kuskokwim Delta areas, and rain possibly heavy at times on the southern Kenai Peninsula coast right up into western Prince William Sound. Then it cuts off about Cordova and you're into the sunshine for the panhandle. Mostly clear, maybe a little breezy up there in the north. Rain and snow showers for the Pribilofs to the eastern Aleutians, but becoming predominantly snow showers as the day wears on, and snow showers for the Aleutians. And then for Tuesday, we've got a weakening trough here, kind of sliding northwestward to this position with some snow from the Yukon Delta up to the Bering Strait. Just some scattered areas of moisture over southern Alaska, sunny for the panhandle. That's a look at the weather. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
If subsistence hunting, trapping, and fishing are important to you, please consider applying for one of the open seats on your Federal Subsistence Regional Advisory Council. These seats will be filled by rural Alaskans who are knowledgeable about fish and wildlife subsistence in their region. Apply by Friday, January 29th, 2016. Information at 1-800-478-1456 or email subsistence@fws.gov.